Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everybody. I love you all. My name is miahtheking, and I used to have a job at a calendar factory, but I got fired because I took a couple of days off. Now, thank you so much for clicking on this random video you happened to find accidentally, and if you're wondering now why you should stay and keep watching, well, let me help. Two reasons. The first one is the funny one-liners at the beginning of every video, and the second one is because I'm one of the few reviewers out there who can help you figure out if you need a game in 10 minutes or less. So stick around and see if I'm right, because I bet you I am. After all, it'll only cost you 10 minutes. Now then, today we're taking a look at a game just released on Steam called Builders of Egypt, a city builder simulation game about playing in ancient Egypt, obviously. The glory days of Egypt with pyramids and other fun stuff. Developed by Strategy Labs and published by Playaway SA, released not in early access and selling for $20. So what even is this game? Well, it's pretty much exactly what it says in its title, Builders of Egypt, Building Egypt. In the very beginning, before Egypt was actually a large entity, is where this game takes place. Mission by mission, story by story, you build up Egypt small settlement by small settlement until you finally get to create the massive, wondrous nation that is Egypt. And that's pretty much it for the plot and direction and game period. So as always, let's get into the good and the bad, shall we? Up first is the positives. Now the first positive point that I'd like to talk about is the sound design. The sound quality here is actually quite good. It even has voice actors who do a great job, though of course that could be AI, who knows anymore in this crazy effed up world. The ambiance sounds really nice too, however. You can hear the people talking, working, the wind, the animals, the hustle and bustle of a city, so there's always something nice to listen to, and the music is great for the game as well, if for no other reason than that it's Egyptian style in an Egyptian game. So overall, the sound quality here was excellent. Next up is length, replayability, and stability. The game was fairly stable, at least for me. The only time I experienced any kind of glitching, or in this case frame rate drops, was when I zoomed out with faster than normal speed. Otherwise, I didn't really experience anything big enough to make mention of. It didn't freeze, or crash, stutter, or glitch in any visible way. As for replayability, the game comes with many choices and decisions along with multiple ways to progress and build cities and whatnot, so coming back a few times might be considered a fun aspect. As for length, I know the game comes with a shit ton of content. Hell, the tutorial itself is longer than 2 hours, and I've only done 3 missions. I know I haven't even gotten super deep in the game, so I know it'll take a really long time to get through the rest of it, so at least there's that. And then let's talk about the price while we're at it. When you think about the price tag, the length of gameplay, and the overall quality here of everything I've seen, I think the price tag is very appropriate. I'd almost say perfect for this game, so it's nice to see it's not being ludicrous. Next up, I'll talk about the gameplay. Now, I have my problems with this game, and we'll get into those later. But when you look at just the straight-up gameplay in a vague kind of view, it's actually pretty decent. It's fairly standard and simple for a city builder sim like this. You know, build roads, houses, gather resources, resource refining buildings, necessities to improve the lives of your citizens and make them happier. The list goes on. In this game, though, they have a unique politics, trade, and warfare mechanic that brings further depth to your gameplay experience. I personally never got to experience the warfare, and trust me, we'll get into that bullshit later. However, in terms of the overall gameplay here, it's pretty standard. Other than its 3 mechanics that most city builder sim games don't have, it's fairly average, but it's not bad, so that's why it's here in the positives. Basically, if you've ever played a city builder game before, you're going to know exactly how this one works, alright? But now I gotta get into the bad things of this game, and before I do that though, do me a favor and consider joining my Royal Guard. How, you might be wondering? Hit subscribe. It's literally just that, it's literally just that easy. Just hit the subscribe button and then you'll be part of a Royal Guard. How cool is that? Also, did you know I review random games at random times? It's true! So hit that bell so you'll be notified whenever I do, because you never know, and hell, I never know, when I might end up reviewing something that you could be missing out on your whole life, and I just can't stand to have that happen. I have to make sure you find those games that you need. That's why I'm here. Now then, let's go on to the negatives. The first negative point for me was the tutorial. It is absolutely ludicrous how it's designed. I really don't like it, and if you've been watching my channel at all, you know tutorials are a big pet peeve of mine, so obviously this one poked that wound. At first, it was simple and easy enough. Do this, do that, do this, and do that. Here's a level with an objective. Here's another one. But I started to notice something after the first level. The mountains of needless, unending text scrolls. Every single freaking lesson is like studying for a final exam. They tell you what you need and how to get it. Great, so far so good. Then they tell you why you need it, which is entirely unnecessary. Then they tell you what it means to Egypt. Also incredibly unnecessary. Then they tell you what happens if you don't have it. Also freaking unnecessary. It's pretty obvious why my people need food. You don't need to explain it to me. It's pretty obvious why the guys who use clay to make pots would suddenly stop production. Oh, maybe they ran out of freaking clay. They tell you that how it's important to the people, but it had no real effect on gameplay. But I guess it adds immersion, which is dumb. We don't need you to do that for us. We can become immersed ourselves. Basically, the tutorial was just way too wordy, with far too much information being thrust at you far too often. Oh, and I was rushing through the tutorial, by the way, and still haven't fully gotten through it yet, because it requires a shit ton of waiting around for stuff to happen, which is the majority of the gameplay, just sitting and waiting, which, why? Why do it like that? Like, why do the tutorial like that? It's incredibly annoying. Next up for the negatives is the user interface. I don't really like it. It feels a bit disorganized. It's not really coherent, and it's kind of hard to navigate. Resources aren't where you'd expect them to be. They're under your map, which is kind of odd and doesn't make sense, but they're also at the center top of your horizontal UI. It's a little confusing, doesn't really make sense. Certain things don't work despite common sense saying that they should. Some commands don't make sense, as well as several design choices. Like, it's not the worst I've ever seen, but it was still pretty bad. I will say, though, that in every loading screen, the game gives you a fully voiced history lesson on Egypt. Yay! It's not even remotely why I'm here, but hey, someone might think it's interesting and stop playing video games to go back to school, so sure, let's enjoy it. The next negative I have is the game's overall design and cohesiveness. It's a bit hard to explain, but allow me to give you an example. The game said that I could not complete my mission until I exported a certain number of beer. So I built 3 barley farms, made sure they had workers, built a brewery, made sure it had workers, followed the steps for clicking on stockpile and allowing it to be stored and exported, going into city management to make sure it'd be collected and exported and stored, went into the world map to trade with the neighboring city who also wanted to buy beer from me. Did I mention this game is a bit tedious? Well, it is, and this is a good example for that. Anyway, after doing all those steps the game taught me and making sure everything was set up the way that the game taught me and needed to be set up, nothing happened. I waited 15 minutes and not a single beer was exported. So I thought, okay, fine, maybe my storage is full and they're not storing it so they can't make any more. So I'll make more storage. Or maybe there's not enough barley. Maybe I didn't need another brewery. Maybe I need sanity back. Maybe I need some more sanity for this awful experiment. 30 minutes later, with 6 barley farms, 3 breweries, 3 stockpiles, and 2 trade routes, and I still have yet to export a single fucking beer. That is some serious bullshit, my friends. What about people not feeling safe, despite their home being built right next to a police station? What about a home burning down directly in front of the fire station? What about a single fucking fishery filling up my massive city stockpiles and not allowing anything else to be stored because they're filled to the brim with fish? Overall, the cohesive mechanics here are pretty screwed up, and it definitely needs some serious work, some serious balancing. Hopefully, a patch can come in here and just clean that right up, but holy crap, was that annoying. And last but not least for the negatives is the graphics. Now, when I looked at this game on the Steam store page, I really thought it looked a lot better than this. I've seen games in the desert before, and they make it look amazing, but here, I just don't know what it is exactly. It just looks ugly to me. The coloring seems a bit off, the contrast is definitely off, as well as the shading and color blending, and overall, it just didn't really look right to me, at least in my opinion. It's pretty ugly. It's lacking in a lot of detail, animations, and specifics, so it stands out. Alright, so that's all the pros and cons I can think of to list. What are my final thoughts? Well, I think this is a perfectly average game with an appropriate price tag. I mean, that's it in a nutshell. Look, the game doesn't look great, but it does sound pretty good, right? The game doesn't play great, but it does have a decent foundation that a patch or two might fix and clear up later. The game is almost more of a learning game than anything else, what with all the lessons it throws at you, which isn't really why I'm here or why most people aren't going to be here. It has its good moments and it has its bad moments, but honestly, I just wasn't really having fun with the game. I love city builder games, and this one just wasn't cohesive enough, it wasn't innovative enough, it wasn't engaging enough, and it just wasn't fun. I guess if you're super obsessed with city builder games, then you might want to give this one a try, but overall, I'm not seeing anything special or new or innovative here, and for that price tag, I don't know, I suppose that's fine. Just don't go into this thinking that it's the next big thing. Like, I've played Manor Lords, and this is a big step back from a game of that quality. I mean, Manor Lords was made by an indie company, and this wasn't. Think about that for a second. Compare the two games and look at what has happened to our gaming industry. An indie team makes Manor Lords, and a non-indie team made this, and just look at the difference. I'd recommend you go and buy and play Manor Lords instead of this. Go play Pharaoh instead of this, because it's basically the same thing anyway. Go play anything else besides this unless you've already played all those. Like I said, it's an average game. Nothing super special. You could pass on it and not miss anything. But the choice is ultimately yours. I don't think it's offensive enough or bad enough to warn you or to ward people away from it. Just know what you're getting into. Alright, everybody? Alright, so that's all the time I got for this video today. Thanks so much for clicking on my video, with a special thanks to those of you who stuck around to the end. If you have any questions or concerns, please let me know in the comments down below. Please like and share the video, and I can't wait to see you all again on my next adventure. So until then, I bid you all farewell. See? Told you I'd get it out in less than 10 minutes.